Chapter 3654. A huge passageway appeared in front of everyone. This passageway looked pitch black, but there was a faint red light spreading out. As for that scorching aura, it had also disappeared. It's open. Many people's eyes revealed a scorching light. In their opinion, this must be the place where the Dragon Palace hid their treasures. Swish. Someone couldn't bear it and rushed out. Of course, he was very careful, using his divine power and divine artifact to protect himself. However, nothing strange happened. That person floated above the passageway, pondered for a moment, and then rushed into the passageway. Let's go. At this time, the others also couldn't bear it. Their figures flickered, and they rushed into the passageway, and then rushed down. Lu Ming was at the back. Seeing the others rushing down, Lu Ming also rushed up. If this was the place where the Dragon Palace hid their treasures, they couldn't miss it. As for experts like Jin Yen, Lu Ming was confident that he could escape even if he couldn't defeat them. The passageway was very big, and it went straight down. As soon as Lu Ming and the others rushed into the passageway, they felt a strong gravitational force acting on them, trying to pull them down. Of course, they could still withstand this gravitational force, and they could also fly up. However, their goal was to go down, so they went with the flow. Their bodies were like meteorites, rapidly falling down. Whoosh, whoosh. The wind blew, and they fell very fast. However, this passageway seemed to be unfathomably deep. They fell for a few hours, but they still hadn't reached the bottom. With their falling speed, the distance of a few hours was already very shocking, but they still hadn't reached the bottom of the passageway. How deep was this passageway? This passageway won't lead to the core of the Dragon Clan's mother planet, right? Someone muttered. Hearing this, the others' faces changed slightly. The Dragon Clan's mother planet was not an ordinary planet. Even the surface was extraordinary. Would the core of the planet be dangerous? But at this point, how could they give up so easily? They kept falling. 5 hours, 10 hours. 1 day, 2 days. They kept falling for 3 days. And the further they went, the higher the temperature. The air was filled with a scorching aura. Were they really going to reach the core of the planet? Everyone's face was solemn. In 3 days, they didn't know how much distance they had fallen. At this time, everyone could see a bright red light below. They were going to reach it. Everyone's spirits are lifted. Sure enough, not long after, everyone descended into a huge underground space. This underground space was extremely vast, as if it was a world of its own. Everyone's eyes were wide open because the underground space was too spectacular. At the bottom was the lava lake. The boundless magma emitted a scorching aura and the smell of sulfur. Everyone needed to circulate their divine power to withstand the high temperature in the air. And in the space above the magma lake, there were many floating mountains. Yes, there were numerous mountains floating in the air. The mountains were completely red, and needless to say, the temperature was shockingly high. The most shocking thing was that there were actually living creatures living on the mountain peak. Quack quack, the sounds of birds chirping could be heard as fiery red birds flew out from the mountain peaks one after another. These birds had crimson feathers that seemed to have flames dancing on them. They swooped down from the hanging mountain towards the lava lake. Like arrows released from a bow, their slender beaks plunged into the lava lake, and in the next moment, a fiery red fish appeared in their beaks. Everyone was dumbfounded. This was the core of the dragon race's mother planet. In the sky above the lava lake, there were mountains floating. On the mountains lived a type of bird, and in the lava lake, there were actually fish, forming a simple ecosystem that left everyone dumbfounded. Amazing, truly amazing. Someone sighed. Is the treasure of the Dragon Palace here? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere. Not to mention the treasure of the Dragon Palace, even in such an environment, there should be peerless treasures. Let's go and look for it. The various geniuses discussed for a while, then spread out and flew in all directions to search. Their targets were the floating mountains and the lava lake. When someone approached one of the floating mountains, a bird chirped, and a fiery bird flew out like a fiery red sword, stabbing towards one of the geniuses. Scram! The Sky Pride roared in anger as he sent out a resplendent palm strike towards the firebird. With a boom, the fiery bird was sent flying, but it was fine. After rolling a few times, it roared angrily and pounced towards the youth. At the same time, a few dozen fiery birds flew out from the mountain. "We're here to help you." That genius did not come alone, but with his clansmen. Over 100 geniuses charged towards the fiery birds. The fiery birds finally could not resist, and more than half of them were killed, while the rest hurriedly fled. At this time, there was also an abnormality in the lava below. Someone was looking at the surface of the lava. Suddenly, the lava churned, and a giant fish appeared, swallowing a genius in one gulp, and then disappeared into the lava. Many people's hearts sank. It seemed that there were not only small fish under the lava, but also terrifying and ferocious giant fish. This place was not that safe. Everyone braced themselves, and while on guard, they searched. Suddenly, news came from a direction, saying that there was a major discovery. Everyone hurriedly rushed in that direction, and Lu Ming followed behind silently. Soon, they arrived at their destination. That is, many people could not help but widen their eyes. In front of them, there was a huge lotus. Yes, a fiery red lotus was floating in the air. The lotus was in full bloom, and in the middle of the lotus was a small dragon. To be precise, it was not a real dragon, but more like a stream of air. A stream of air as thick as a thumb, about a meter long, was suspended vertically above the lotus, constantly twisting and turning. At first, it looked like a small dragon, but in the next moment, it turned into a transparent stream of air. The shape of the stream of air and the shape of the dragon were constantly changing. It was a stream of energy. That was the consensus of everyone. A stream of energy was suspended above a fiery red lotus, and it looked extraordinary at first glance. Someone could not help but want to fly forward. "Don't go up, it's very dangerous there." Someone went up before, but before he could get close to the lotus, he died and turned into ashes. Someone hurriedly reminded them. As soon as that was said, many people were shocked, and those who were about to step forward also stopped. No wonder the news spread. It turned out that it was not so easy to get it. If it was easy to get it, it would have been taken away long ago. How could the news spread? "What's going on?" someone asked. "I don't know." When someone got close, he directly turned into ashes. Someone said with a grave expression. Chapter 3655. Instead of dispelling everyone's thoughts, it made some people even more greedy. The more dangerous and strange it was, the more extraordinary it was. Moreover, everyone had a preconceived notion that this was the treasure trove of the Dragon Palace, so they were even more certain that it was a treasure. This is a fire attribute treasure. Ordinary people definitely don't have the fortune to enjoy it. This kind of treasure should belong to my sacred Flaming Lion clan. At this moment, a burly young man sneered. He was wearing a fiery red armor and his skin was red. As he circulated his divine power, his whole body exuded a scorching aura. This was a genius from the Divine Flaming Lion clan. The Divine Flaming Lion clan was a clan that was born to play with fire. It was also an extremely powerful clan on the list of 10,000 primitive clans. When others came here, they would feel uncomfortable all over and need to circulate their divine power to resist the scorching aura outside. However, when the Divine Flaming Lion clan came here, not only did they not feel uncomfortable, but they felt very comfortable. They were like fish in water. Cultivating here would make their cultivation speed faster. Therefore, in the eyes of the Divine Flaming Lion clan, the treasure on the fire lotus was their opportunity. The genius of the Divine Flaming Lion clan stepped forward with a cold and arrogant expression and flew toward the fire lotus. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. The fiery red armor shone and covered his body tightly. In addition, he also took out several divine weapons, all of which were monarch-level divine weapons. There was a fiery red shield and a fiery red bead. Several treasures shrouded him tightly. Then he approached the fire lotus. He was getting closer and closer. Soon, the genius of the Divine Flaming Lion clan was within 1,000 meters of the fire lotus. Suddenly, very abruptly, the body of the Divine Flaming Lion clan burned fiercely. The genius of the Divine Flaming Lion clan was originally covered in flames. His treasures were also filled with heat and the temperature was shockingly high. However, on the basis that he was covered in flames, he burned. It was as if the flames on the genius of the divine Flaming Lion clan were not flames, but charcoal. The genius of the divine Flaming Lion clan only let out a scream. Then his body, along with his divine weapons, directly turned into ashes and scattered on the magma lake. This, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Although the genius of the divine Flaming Lion clan only had a third-level Divine Lord cultivation base, he controlled flames. Ordinary flames were useless to him and would instead become his tonic. But now, he only had time to let out a miserable scream before dying on the spot. That's terrifying. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. What the hell is this? I don't know, but it is definitely a rare treasure. Nonsense, it's so strange. It's definitely a treasure. The question is, how did I get it? The sky prides of the various clans discussed fervently. Let me try. At this moment, another voice resounded, and then a figure charged out. This was a red-robed young man, and he was also a fire-type creature. Everyone recognized that he was from the fire spirit race. Boom! The young man's aura erupted, and his body completely transformed into a ball of flames. A powerful aura filled the air. 6th level Divine Lord. Many people were shocked. This was a top monster. Furthermore, he entered the dragon race's mother planet over 30 years ago. His cultivation already reached 6th level Divine Lord and was one of the strongest people present. However, he was also very cautious. He completely transformed into flames and slowly flew forward. Soon he was within 1,000 meters of the fire lotus. Out of thin air, a layer of flames appeared on his body and burned fiercely. However, the man from the Fire Spirit clan didn't burn to ashes like the prodigy from the Divine Fire Lion clan. He successfully withstood the attack. Then, he slowly approached the Fire Lotus. Blocked it. Looks like he's going to succeed. The Fire Spirit race is stronger than the Divine Fire Lion race in playing with fire. Moreover, his cultivation is still 6th level Divine Lord. It's normal for him to block it. Everyone discussed. As for the Fire Spirit race youth, he slowly approached the Fire Lotus. He was getting closer and closer to the Fire Lotus. When he was 100 meters away from the Fire Lotus, he suddenly let out a scream of horror. The Fire Spirit race youth roared. The flames twisted as if he wanted to retreat. But at the next moment, with a bang, his body directly exploded and disappeared without a trace. Everyone looked at each other, their faces pale. Even the Fire Spirit race's prodigy, a 6th level Divine Lord existence, could not get close to the Fire Lotus. It seemed that they could not get this treasure. What is this treasure? Has anyone seen it before? I don't know. I've never seen or heard of it before. Let's send it to the Dream Realm and ask the seniors of the various races. Then, they used the Dream Realm Divine Jade to record the Fire Lotus and the airflow above it and placed it in the Dream Realm. How is this possible? How can this thing be here? At this moment, in Lu Ming's Sea of Consciousness, Bone Devil seemed to have received a great shock and screamed in disbelief. Of course, outsiders could not hear it. Only Lu Ming could hear it. Senior Bone Devil, what's wrong? Lu Ming asked in surprise. Bone Devil's origin was mysterious and unfathomable. In the past, no matter what he encountered, he was very calm. It was rare for him to lose his composure. But now, Lu Ming could clearly see that Bone Devil's pitch-black bones were trembling. The two souls in his eye sockets were constantly jumping. Lu Ming could clearly feel shock, horror, greed, disbelief, fear, and other different emotions. What could make Bone Devil do such a thing? That lotus or that airflow above it? What could make Bone Devil lose his composure? Did I see wrongly? No, I shouldn't have seen wrongly. Why would this thing appear here? I understand. I finally understand why the Divine Dragon race was destroyed. Bone Devil did not answer Lu Ming's question. Instead, he muttered to himself. However, Lu Ming was greatly shocked. Bone Devil had guessed the truth behind the Divine Dragon race's destruction. Lu Ming had always been curious as to why those powerful races would join hands to besiege the divine dragon race. Even the heavenly palace had taken action. Could it be that Bone Devil understood? Senior Bone Devil, what do you understand? Lu Ming hurriedly asked. It's because of that airflow. Bone Devil said. That airflow above the lotus. Lu Ming looked at the airflow above the lotus, full of suspicion. Just because of this airflow, the divine dragon race, which had dominated the universe back then, was annihilated. That airflow was so shocking. Kid, don't underestimate that airflow. If I'm not wrong, that's a taboo power, Bone Devil said. Chapter 3656. When he said the word taboo, the soul fire in Bone Devil's eye sockets flickered, revealing a deep fear and yearning. It was very complicated. Taboo power. Lu Ming was shocked. When he heard the word taboo power, he thought of Xian Yanqing. Back then, when Hong Yang came to take away Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan, he had mentioned that Xian Yanqing's father in his previous life was a taboo. What was the relationship between the two? What is taboo power? Lu Ming asked the question in his heart. I don't know exactly what taboo power is. It's very mysterious, but what I can be sure of is that it's a kind of heaven-defying power. Once it's fused, one's talent will reach an unimaginable level, and one's future will be limitless. It's a kind of supreme treasure that nothing can compare to. However, I heard a legend that the Heavenly Palace is extremely afraid of taboo power. Once they know about taboo power, they will do whatever it takes to get it. So I guess that the Divine Dragon Clan obtained taboo power, and that's why they were annihilated by the Heavenly Palace. Bone Devil said. A power that even the Heavenly Palace is afraid of. Lu Ming was deeply shocked. In the primitive universe, at the beginning of the universe, the primordial divine spirits were born. That era was called the Age of Incipient Gods, and the primordial divine spirits dominated the world. Later, the Heavenly Palace appeared and fought with the primordial divine spirits, and almost destroyed the primordial divine spirits. Since then, the Heavenly Palace was high and mighty, ruling the vast universe, and entered the Age of Heavenly Palace. Even the powerful Heavenly Palace was afraid of taboo power. Then, Xian Yanqing's father in his previous life was called a taboo. Was it related to taboo power? If that was the case, then the enemy of Xian Yanqing's family in his previous life was the Heavenly Palace. At this moment, Lu Ming thought of a lot of things. At the same time, his heart was burning. Even the Heavenly Palace was afraid of power. If he could get it, then, the more he thought about it, the more Lu Ming's heart was burning. But when he thought of the Fire Spirit Clan, Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. Maybe he would be turned into ashes before he could get close. A power that even the Heavenly Palace feared would not be easy to obtain. At this time, Guillemot also seemed to have a lot on his mind. He did not continue to speak, as if he was thinking about something. But not long after, there was an uproar in the dreamland, because someone from the Heavenly Palace had appeared. Moreover, it was a great figure of the Heavenly Palace. It was all because of that strand of qi. Previously, someone had transmitted the airflow from the fire lotus into the illusory space, which had attracted the attention of the Heavenly Palace. This shocked the whole starry sky. But what was even more shocking was yet to come. An important person from the Heavenly Palace came out and asked the Heavenly Legends in the Dragon Clan's mother planet to get the Heavenly Legend. They must get it whether they use it for themselves or keep it with treasures. The Heavenly Palace would confer the title of Son of Heaven or Daughter of Heaven to whoever got it. Once this news came out, the entire primitive universe, countless races, and countless forces were in an uproar. Even the top 10 races were in an uproar. The Heavenly Palace would confer the title of Son of Heaven or Daughter of Heaven to whoever got the Heavenly Legend. Countless people's eyes were red. Especially the Heavenly Legends who entered the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Their eyes were full of greed. Those who did not enter the Dragon Clan's mother planet were all envious. Once they became Son of Heaven or Daughter of Heaven, they would have a meteoric rise. They were Son of Heaven or Daughter of Heaven. Only the top Heavenly Legends in the Heavenly Palace could be conferred the title of Son of Heaven or Daughter of Heaven. It was like an ordinary person suddenly becoming a prince or daughter of heaven. In fact, The Heavenly Palace would recruit a group of heavenly legends from the primitive universe every once in a while and train them in the Heavenly Palace. However, after these heavenly legends entered the Heavenly Palace, they could only become heavenly soldiers. For example, in the secular dynasty, heavenly soldiers were ordinary soldiers, and heavenly legends were princes or daughters of heaven. Their identities were worlds apart. It would be strange if the heavenly legends of various races were not jealous. However, when they thought of the danger around the fire lotus, many people's hearts sank. How to get the heavenly legend? Someone asked in the heavenly dream jade. Soon, the important person from the Heavenly Palace gave a reply. That strand of heavenly legend had been refined by an expert of the divine dragon race back then. It had been sealed here for countless years, causing the life forms around the lava lake to have a trace of that strand of heavenly legend's characteristics. As long as he killed the creatures here, he would be able to fuse the strange energy of these creatures into his body. He would be able to create a resistance that would allow him to better block the attack of the airflow. As long as they fused with more of that aura, they might be able to fuse with that strand of heavenly legend's aura. So that's how it is. No wonder I felt a strange aura from that heavenly legend's aura when I killed that heavenly legend's heavenly legend. Someone muttered. After that, the heavenly legends of various races began to search for the life forms in the heart of the heavenly dragon race's mother planet to kill. A huge battle immediately broke out in this space. On the floating mountain peak, the heavenly legend wailed as it was besieged by many heavenly legends. On the lava lake, many heavenly legends were bombarding the lava lake, forcing out the life forms inside and fighting them. It seems Bone Devil was right. Looking at the dreamy space, even the big shots of the Heavenly Palace had spoken. Lu Ming was certain that even the Heavenly Palace was wary of this wisp of air current. Lu Ming, do you want this strand of qi? At that moment, Guimo asked directly. Why wouldn't I want such a treasure? Lu Ming replied. I can tell you that even if you manage to refine this strand of forbidden energy, your fighting strength will not immediately explode. It will not explode to the point where the Heavenly Palace is afraid of you. That's impossible. After fusing with the taboo energy, you'll have the legendary taboo body. It'll just raise your talent to a shocking level. What the Heavenly Palace fears is actually this kind of talent. Therefore, once you fuse with the taboo energy, your battle prowess will not skyrocket, but you will be on the opposite side of the Heavenly Palace. I've heard of a legend. A forbidden body is a heaven-defying person. Guimo said. Heaven-defying heaven refers to the Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming asked. That's right. Therefore, once you fuse with the taboo energy, you will definitely be on the opposite side of the Heavenly Palace and become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace. You have to think about this carefully, Guimo said. Lu Ming pondered. The Heavenly Palace was the ruler of the primitive universe. Becoming an enemy of the Heavenly Palace was something that no one wanted to see or face. Because in the primitive universe, becoming an enemy of the Heavenly Palace was equivalent to courting death. Even a powerful race like the Divine Dragon race was annihilated. However, Lu Ming quickly made a decision. Chapter 3657. I've decided to fuse. Lu Ming said. Yes. Even if he would end up on the opposite side of the Heavenly Palace and become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace, he would still fuse. Because Lu Ming had a feeling that the greatest enemy of Xian Yanqing's family in his previous life was very likely the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, even if he did not fuse with the taboo energy, he would most likely end up on the opposite side of the Heavenly Palace and become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, there was nothing to consider. Kid, you're really daring. Bone Demon said, but Lu Ming clearly felt that Bone Demon seemed to be relieved. As if he was expecting Lu Ming's reply. This made Lu Ming somewhat curious. Could it be that Bone Demon had a grudge against the Heavenly Palace? But kid, let me tell you, although you want to fuse with the taboo energy, the success rate is still very small, very, very small. Bone Demon said again. Even if you kill the creatures here and fuse with the energy to create resistance, it still won't work. Lu Ming asked. Yes, the people of the Heavenly Palace let the geniuses of various races fuse with the taboo energy. They're just trying it out with the lives of these people. Let me tell you, your success rate is only 0.999,999%. Bone Demon said. Stop. Lu Ming hurriedly stopped him, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. You're looking down on me too much. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but in history, anyone who can successfully fuse with the taboo energy is an unparalleled peerless genius. Their talent is unimaginably high, and they also have great luck. They're the main characters of an era. You're still far from that. Bone Demon was not stingy with his attacks on Lu Ming. I'm also the main character of an era, okay? Lu Ming retorted. Bone Demon sneered. All right. Lu Ming smiled brightly. He was just bragging. He knew himself well and did not think that he was the main character of an era. Try your best, but don't have too much hope, Guillemot said. Lu Ming nodded, then rushed in a certain direction and landed on a stretch of lava. Voila! Suddenly, the magma churned and a giant fish that was more than 10 meters long dashed out. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed Lu Ming in one gulp. I have been waiting for you. Lu Ming smiled and thrust out his tyrant god spear. This sort of gargantuan fish was very strong. Its entire body was covered in fiery red scales. Its defensive power was very shocking. Ordinary third-level Divine Lord geniuses would find it very hard to deal with this sort of gargantuan fish alone. However, against Lu Ming, there was only one outcome for Jianghu, and that was to be killed instantly. Puff! The tyrant god's spear pierced through the giant fish's head. A burst of black smoke actually emerged from the tyrant god's spear. Then, a scorching aura flowed along the tyrant god's spear and surged towards Lu Ming's palm. Such a high temperature. Lu Ming didn't expect that after killing this kind of giant fish, the other party could still burst out with such terrifying heat to counterattack him. Although this temperature might be dangerous to others, it was nothing to Lu Ming. Lu Ming circulated his divine energy and poured it into the tyrant god's spear, forcing back that scorching aura. Then, the tyrant god's spear shook, and the giant fish's body split apart. A mysterious aura spread. This aura was somewhat similar to the taboo energy, but it was countless times fainter. That was because these giant fish had lived here for so long that they were too close to the taboo energy. Generation after generation, their bodies carried a trace of the taboo energy's aura. It was the same for those flame birds. They first fused with this kind of aura. The more they fused with it, the more resistant they would become to the taboo energy. Later on, fusing with the taboo energy would be easier. Lu Ming directly sucked in that strand of aura into Lu Ming's mouth. That strand of aura fused into his body. Afterward, Lu Ming released his spiritual senses and scanned the magma lake, looking for living creatures in the magma lake. Found it. Lu Ming's eyes brightened, and he thrust out his spear. A spear light stabbed into the lava lake. Boom! The lava exploded, and another giant fish rushed out of the lava lake. This fish was even larger than the one Lu Ming had just killed. It was over 20 meters long. As soon as it charged out, it opened its mouth and shot out a fiery red arrow at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming swept out his spear and hit the fiery red arrow. There was a violent explosion. Buzz! The tyrant god's spear buzzed. That fiery red arrow's power was shockingly strong. Swish! Seeing Lu Ming block it, the giant fish opened its mouth again. This time, it shot out 7 fiery red arrows at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped on the wind-extinguishing boots, and his figure flashed, dodging the 7 arrows. He appeared above the giant fish's head and stabbed out with his spear. The giant fish's body was also pierced, and it died on the spot. Then, a strange aura appeared and was absorbed by Lu Ming. Yes, it's even denser than the previous one. Lu Ming muttered. He found that this aura was a bit denser than the previous one. Could it be that the stronger the giant fish, the denser that aura would be? Next, Lu Ming began experimenting. He constantly searched for giant fish to kill. As expected, the stronger the giant fish's cultivation base, the denser that aura would be. This was the core of the dragon race's mother planet. It was extremely vast. Lu Ming found a secluded place to quietly kill these giant fish. He wasn't worried that others would be the first to fuse with the taboo energy. According to the Bone Devil, the chances of fusing with the taboo energy were inconceivably low. If you weren't a peerless genius, you wouldn't be able to succeed. So it was extremely difficult for the various races' heavenly geniuses to succeed. Furthermore, the more of this aura fused with the giant fish, the higher the success rate. So Lu Ming wanted to fuse with as much of this aura as possible. At this time, the various races' heavenly geniuses had all scattered to capture the life forms here. There were fierce battles everywhere. It was very difficult for ordinary heavenly geniuses to kill these giant fish. So there were constantly geniuses dying in the giant fish's mouths and being devoured. Time quickly passed. A few hours later, Lu Ming had already killed over a dozen giant fish and fused with over a dozen strange auras. But suddenly, huge waves surged in the magma lake. Streams of magma danced like long snakes, entangling Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He soared into the air, dodging the lava's attack. But the lava continued to surge. Then, a huge creature appeared. This was also a giant fish, but it was over 100 meters long. It's so big! Lu Ming's eyes widened. Instead of being shocked, he was delighted. For such a huge fish to contain such a unique aura, it must be very rich. The giant fish let out a strange cry. Its huge body twisted, and it charged out of the lava lake. It soared into the sky and charged at Lu Ming. Its entire body glowed and streaks of fiery red light blades slashed toward Lu Ming. The power was astonishing. Chapter 3658. Streaks of fiery red light blades. The power was extremely astonishing, comparable to divine weapons. Lu Ming shook his spear, turning into several dozen spear lights, colliding with these light blades. Berserk force stirred up magma waves, exploding several hundred meters high. Bang! Bang! In an instant, both sides clashed several dozen moves. Several spear lights broke through, stabbing into the giant fish's body. It actually emitted the sound of metal clashing, sparks flying everywhere. Lu Ming's spear lights actually did not break the giant fish's scales, only leaving behind a few marks on them. Strength isn't bad. Lu Ming's gaze flashed. This giant fish's cultivation was at least equivalent to a 6th-level Divine Lord powerhouse. However, ordinary 6th-level Divine Lords did not enter Lu Ming's eyes. They could only be considered not bad. The giant fish let out a strange cry, its entire body shining. Opening its mouth, fiery red arrows flew out. These arrows practically condensed into substance, sparkling and translucent, piercing the air, making the air explode continuously. The power of this arrow was much stronger than the arrow shot by the giant fish he had encountered before. Kill! Lu Ming shouted loudly, stimulating the power of 8 drops of primordial divine blood. Man and spear becoming one, charging over. Bang! All of the arrows were blown apart by Lu Ming's spear. The spear light did not stop, stabbing into the giant fish's head. Under the situation where Lu Ming's nearly all-out attack, the giant fish's body directly exploded, its bones shattered. With Lu Ming's present combat strength, he could even fight with Jin Yan. Jin Yan's cultivation was also 6th-level Divine Lord. But he was a monster among monsters. He was absolutely not what ordinary 6th-level Divine Lords could compare to. The difference was huge. This giant fish was also 6th-level Divine Lord, but it could only be considered ordinary. Even in an environment like magma, its combat strength was somewhat increased. But under Lu Ming's nearly all-out attack, it could only be insta-killed. The giant fish exploded. A strange aura emerged. Lu Ming was just about to absorb this strand of qi when suddenly, a fierce whistling sound came from behind him. Several vines swept towards him at an astonishing speed. A few of them swept towards Lu Ming, while the others targeted that wisp of aura. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he activated his wind-extinguishing boots. His body dashed forward, and as he did so, he sucked in the wisp of qi. At the same time, he dodged the attacks of the vines and turned around to look behind him. "It's you!" Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent. The one who attacked him was none other than the Vine Tribe prodigy who had teamed up with Jin Yan and the others to deal with him. He was an extremely powerful monster. Your reaction is quite fast. The vine race freak's eyes were cold, and his snake-like hair danced in the wind. "You're courting death," shouted Lu Ming as he charged at the vine race freak. This person had repeatedly attacked him. In Lu Ming's heart, he had already sentenced him to death. Whoosh, whoosh. The vine monster waved his hands, and the vines were like long whips, sweeping toward Lu Ming. Each of the vines was astonishingly powerful. Boom! Lu Ming shot out his spear, but this time, his spear wasn't aimed at the vine race freak, but at the lava below. When the attack landed, the lava exploded, creating a wave of lava that was thousands of meters high. It surged towards the prodigy of the vine tribe. The vines that swept out were covered by the lava and immediately started burning. The vine race freak's expression changed, and he frantically retreated. The greatest weakness of plant life was that they were afraid of fire. Only a very small number of plant life forms were not afraid of fire, such as the divine sun tree and the raging flame sky bamboo. However, this vine race freak was clearly afraid of fire. The moment he retreated, Lu Ming gave chase, and a resplendent spear light shot towards him. Boom! At this moment, the air beside him shook violently and there was a huge explosion. A golden fist, as huge as a mountain, smashed toward Lu Ming. "Jinyan!" shouted Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even need to look to know that the one attacking him was Jin Yan. Jin Yan's combat power was very shocking. Even Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He could only change the direction of his attack at the last minute. The tyrannical god's spear turned midway and swept out toward Jin Yan's fist. Boom! Their attacks collided, and then Lu Ming was forced back. Of course, Jin Yan was also forced back. "Lu Ming, this will be your burial ground." Jin Yan stared at Lu Ming, his golden eyes flickering with killing intent. "You think you can kill me with just the two of you? Aren't you a bit too naive?" sneered Lu Ming. Even if he wasn't a match for the two of them, escaping was still very easy. "What if you add me in?" Another cold voice rang out. Following that, a youth with 8 arms attacked. His 8 palms were shining brightly, as if he was preparing some kind of powerful move. That was the multi-hand race freak. However, this matter wasn't over. "How lively!" Another voice rang out. Looking in the direction of the voice, 3 figures appeared at the same time. These 3 people were clearly from different races, but they came at the same time. One of them made Lu Ming extremely wary. This person had 2 wolf heads. He was the 2-headed wolf race's freak, a peerless genius at the 7th level of the Divine Lord realm. The other 2 weren't simple. They were also existences that had entered the dragon race's mother planet over 30 years ago. A total of 6 experts surrounded Lu Ming vaguely. Lu Ming's expression sank. This was troublesome. He didn't expect that the other side would send 6 peak freaks at once. They wanted to kill him in one fell swoop, making it impossible for him to escape. "Everyone, let's work together. This kid has mastered many kinds of origin secret techniques. He has a speed-type origin secret technique that is extremely fast. If we don't work together, I'm afraid he'll escape." Jin Yan said. Of course, he was talking to the 3 monstrous geniuses from the 2-headed wolf race. This was because the 2-headed wolf race's trio didn't make a move the last time. However, this time, Jin Yan wanted to get the 2-headed wolf race's trio to attack together. This way, no matter how fast Lu Ming was, he wouldn't be able to escape. Only death awaited him. "You want to kill me because of a condition from the winged race's almighty, right? However, the winged race's almighty only has one condition. If you all work together to kill me, how are we going to split the reward?" Lu Ming spoke, wanting to drive a wedge between the other party. As long as they didn't work together, or if the 2-headed wolf race's almighty didn't make a move, he was confident that he could escape. As expected, these people's eyes flickered. Clearly, they were thinking about Lu Ming's words. There were 6 of them. If they worked together to kill Lu Ming, who would get the credit? Who would get the winged race's almighty's condition? "Everyone, I'll be frank. I have something that I need the help of the winged race's almighty. If we kill this kid, the winged race's almighty's condition will belong to me. However, I will compensate everyone with treasures of the same value." Jin Yan said. Chapter 3659. Treasures of the same value. The eyes of the two-headed wolf race's geniuses flashed with doubt. That's right. If we work together to kill this person, we'll split the merit equally. For example, we can split the winged man race's offer into 6 portions, each of us taking 1 portion. Then, if I obtain the winged man race's offer, I'll give you the treasures of the same value as the other 5 portions. How about it? If you don't believe me, I can swear on my life essence. Jin Yan explained. He really did have something to ask the winged man race's expert for help. Therefore he had to kill Lu Ming. Alright, I agree. I also agree. The multi-hand race's genius and the vine race's genius thought for a moment before agreeing. As for the two-headed wolf race's genius and the other 2 youths, they hesitated for a moment before agreeing as well. Boom. The 6 of them reached a consensus, and 6 powerful auras pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I've already said that this will be your burial ground. Jin Yan's body emitted a golden light as he stepped on the lava and pressed down on Lu Ming. At the same time, the other 5 geniuses did the same. Their auras intertwined like an impenetrable wall, blocking all openings and leaving Lu Ming with nowhere to run. Then let's fight. Lu Ming muttered. Divine light shone brightly as he raised his strength to the limit. With a dragon roar, Lu Ming's body rapidly grew, turning into a huge primordial divine dragon. At the same time, divine light shone, and various origin secret techniques appeared. Although only 4 of them had severed their second shackle, and the other 7 had only severed their first shackle, their power was limited. But now that he had to go all out, Lu Ming naturally used his full strength. Every bit of strength he could increase was a bit of strength. In any case, he had the quantifying character art, so he wasn't afraid of exhausting his divine power. Jin Yan roared and took the lead to attack. However, right at that moment, a beam of incomparably sharp divine light appeared in the distance. It pierced through the void and slashed towards Jin Yan. Jin Yan was startled. He hadn't expected someone to launch a sneak attack at this time. He hurriedly turned around and punched out. His golden fist collided with the divine light that was slashing at him, causing a violent explosion. The divine light was successfully blocked, but Jin Yan's body was forced to retreat. Who is it? Jin Yan roared. What answered him was a dragon's roar. In that direction, a divine dragon was flying over. This divine dragon had 9 dragon claws growing from its abdomen. It was very similar to Lu Ming's current primordial divine dragon form. Eoguan, Lu Ming blurted out. The 9-clawed divine dragon was none other than Eoguan. A 9-clawed dragon. The eyes of the two-headed wolf race freak and the vine race freak lit up. A 3rd-level divine lord 9-clawed dragon dares to come and die? Truly courting death. One of the geniuses snorted coldly as he leaped into the air and charged towards Eoguan. Before he even arrived, a resplendent sword light had already enveloped Eoguan. This freak was also very powerful. With a 6th-level divine lord cultivation, his battle strength was not weaker than Jin Yan's. Eoguan roared as he stepped into the air with his dragon claws and engaged in a fierce battle with this person. Lu Ming discovered that Eoguan's cultivation had also risen to the 3rd-level divine lord realm. Moreover, his battle strength was even more astonishing. After exchanging a dozen blows with this freak, he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Previously, Lu Ming had obtained more than 50 heavenly source fruits. Eoguan had also obtained more than 50. Evidently, after refining them, he had also made a major breakthrough in his origin source secret technique. It wasn't the 2nd severed shackle, but the 3rd. Let's kill this Lu Ming first. Jin Yan hurriedly said, afraid that the situation would change if they delayed. However, there was already a change. The dragon's roar resounded once again. Lu Ming saw that not far away, several more divine dragons were charging over. There were a total of 6. 2 9-clawed dragons and 4 8-clawed divine dragons. This greatly surprised Lu Ming. He didn't expect that other than Eoguan, there would be 2 9-clawed dragons. What? Jin Yan and the others were also greatly shocked. One of the silver 9-clawed dragons roared and stomped its dragon claws, directly charging towards the double-headed wolf race freak. As for the 3rd 9-clawed dragon, it charged towards Jin Yan. The 4 8-clawed divine dragons joined forces and charged towards the 3 freaks from the multi-hand race and the vine race. A chaotic battle immediately broke out. And how could Lu Ming miss such an opportunity? Kill! Lu Ming let out a long howl. He stared at a genius and charged toward him. Lu Ming targeted the vine race freak. Lu Ming directly controlled the sun and pressed it towards the other party. Rays of sunlight, along with scorching flames, pressed towards the vine race prodigy. At the same time, Lu Ming's dragon claws continuously stomped on the magma lake, stirring up thousands of layers of waves that crazily pressed towards the vine race prodigy. Immediately, the vine race prodigy was covered in flames. He unleashed all his strength, wanting to extinguish the flames. Ding ling ling, the bell of evil rang and the soul attack was launched. At the same time, the gate of domination, overlord spear, and other attacks charged towards the vine race prodigy. If the vine race prodigy was outside, his combat strength would not be weaker than Jin Yen or Lu Ming. But here, in the magma lake, he was greatly suppressed and his strength was weakened. In addition, the sun physique restrained him. At the same time, Lu Ming stirred up magma to bombard him, making him even more vulnerable. His strength was greatly reduced. He roared and barely blocked a few moves, but he was forced to retreat by Lu Ming. In a moment of carelessness, he was hit by Lu Ming's dragon claws. He coughed up blood and his face turned pale. Kill! Lu Ming's attacks were extremely violent. He transformed into the form of the primordial divine dragon and unleashed 100% of his strength. The vine race prodigy was completely suppressed by Lu Ming. After a few moves, he was hit again and his chest was pierced by the overlord spear. Then, the gate of domination pressed down and smashed towards the other party. The vine race prodigy transformed into a huge vine and waved it like an octopus's tentacles, wanting to stop the gate of domination. But he was heavily injured and couldn't stop it. Under the suppression of the gate of domination, his body fell into the magma lake. With a boom, the huge vine body fell into the magma lake. The vine race prodigy let out a miserable cry. His body was about to burst into flames. But Lu Ming didn't stop there. He swooped down, his 9 claws clawing at the vine race prodigy as he charged into the magma lake. Boom! The two sides entered the magma lake and fought fiercely. However, the vine race prodigy was greatly suppressed by the magma lake. As for Lu Ming, although he was also somewhat suppressed, it was clearly insignificant compared to the other party. The other party was no match for Lu Ming at all. The vines were torn apart by Lu Ming. In the end, Lu Ming's dragon claws grabbed the other party's torso and tore with all his might. The body of the Vine Clan monster was torn into pieces and its soul was destroyed by Lu Ming. Its body burned fiercely in the magma and turned into ashes. Chapter 3660. The Vine Race's prodigy was completely killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming rushed out of the lava lake. The battle above was still ongoing. Although Ao Guan was only a 3rd-level divine lord, he was locked in a fierce battle with that prodigy. Although he was slightly at a disadvantage after exchanging many moves, he wouldn't be defeated for the time being. The other 9-clawed dragon's color was similar to Ao Guan's. His cultivation was stronger, reaching the peak of the 3rd-level divine lord realm. He was stronger and completely suppressed Jin Yen. If it wasn't for Jin Yan's amazing defense, he would have been defeated. As for the silver 9-clawed dragon, it had a mature body and was at the 4th-level divine lord realm. It was the strongest and fought with the 2-headed wolf race's prodigy. It was difficult to determine the victor. One had to know that the 2-headed wolf race was a 7th-level divine lord. Furthermore, they were monstrous geniuses, 3 levels higher than the silver 9-clawed divine dragon. Yet, they were actually unable to do anything to the other party. It could be seen just how terrifying the 9-clawed divine dragon's combat strength was. There were also 4 other 8-clawed divine dragons. They joined forces to fight the multi-hand race's prodigy and the other prodigy, but they were at a disadvantage. Seeing Lu Ming come out and not sensing the vine race's prodigy's aura, everyone's expression changed. Boom! Both sides exchanged a series of blows. Then, the 2-headed wolf race's prodigies quickly retreated and gathered together. The 2-headed wolf race's prodigy, the multi-hand race's prodigy, and Jin Yan's group of 5 gathered together. The divine dragon race's prodigies also gathered together. Not good. They're sending a voice transmission to call the others over. Lu Ming suddenly reminded them, because he noticed that Jin Yan and the others' glabella were glowing. They were clearly using the Dream Divine Jade to send a voice transmission. These weren't the only prodigies who entered the dragon race's mother planet more than 30 years ago. There were even more. They had all come to the lava lake area. If they all came, Lu Ming, Ao Guan, and the others wouldn't be enough. Let's retreat first. The silver 9-clawed dragon spoke. Its voice was crisp and pleasant. It was actually the voice of a young woman. Brother Lu, come with us. Ao Guan sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. With a twist of his body, he followed Ao Guan and the others in a certain direction. Although their combined strength was slightly stronger than the two-headed wolf tribe's group, they still wouldn't be able to take them down if they joined forces to defend. Lu Ming was able to kill the vine race freak because he was restrained by the environment here. On the other hand, Jin Yan and the others were not that easy to kill. Not only would they fail to kill him, but they would also attract the attention of other geniuses. At that time, they would not be able to leave. Hold them back, don't let them escape. The two-headed wolf race freak roared and chased after Lu Ming and the others. It was the same for Jin Yan and the others. There were 3 9-clawed dragons and 4 8-clawed divine dragons here. This was a bounty offered by the Angel tribe, the Blood tribe, and other major tribes. If he could kill them, the rewards would be extremely shocking. The reward of a 9-clawed dragon would probably not be lower than that of Lu Ming. Therefore, they didn't want to let Lu Ming and the others leave just like that. As long as they could hold off Lu Ming and the others, once the other freaks arrived, Lu Ming and the others would definitely die. Roar! At this moment, the silver 9-clawed divine dragon let out a loud roar. In the next moment, the lava lake below seemed to be boiling as it surged and churned continuously. Next, one huge fish after another appeared. These huge fish didn't attack Lu Ming and the others. Instead, they charged at Jin Yan and the others. It can even control the huge fish here. Lu Ming was deeply curious about this silver 9-clawed dragon. Let's go! The silver 9-clawed dragon spoke. They increased their speed and rushed forward. As for the two-headed wolf race freaks, they were entangled by the huge fish and couldn't break out of the encirclement. They could only watch as Lu Ming and the others left. Not long after, they lost track of Lu Ming and the others. Damn it! The two-headed wolf race freaks roared. They crazily hunted down those huge fish. Lu Ming followed Ao Guan and the rest. They flew all the way, bypassing many mountains that were suspended in the air. They only stopped after flying for an unknown distance. Lu Ming put away the primordial divine blood and transformed back into his human form. As for Ao Guan and the others, their bodies also shrunk and transformed back into their human forms. The silver 9-clawed dragon was indeed a woman. It transformed into a young and beautiful woman wearing silver scale armor. She was very beautiful. Brother Ao Guan, thank you for saving me this time. Lu Ming cupped his fists towards Ao Guan and the others. You're welcome. You saved me last time. Although you used the heavenly source fruit to offset it, since we met again, there's no reason to leave you in the lurch. Ao Guan smiled faintly. These people are... Lu Ming looked at the others. Let me introduce you. This is Ao Qing, my good brother. Ao Guan first pointed at the young man who looked similar to him. This young man was a 9-clawed dragon. Through Ao Guan's introduction, he was actually Ao Guan's younger brother. This is... Then, Ao Guan introduced the 4 8-clawed divine dragons one by one. Finally, he introduced the silver 9-clawed dragon. This is Princess Ao Yen, the daughter of a dragon king of the Dragon Palace. Ao Guan said, Princess. Lu Ming was shocked. He did not expect this to be the princess of the dragon race. No wonder Ao Guan and the others seemed to listen to her orders. These divine dragons were all existences from dozens of stellar years ago. Like Ao Guan, they were sealed and only came out recently. Brother Lu is really amazing. As a human, You're actually able to cultivate the primordial divine dragon body and so many drops of primordial divine blood. Ao Yen is impressed. The princess of the dragon race smiled gracefully. Princess is too kind. Lu Ming was just lucky. Lu Ming smiled. Brother Lu is too humble. Ao Yen smiled faintly. She did not think that one could reach Lu Ming's level just because of good luck. In fact, Lu Ming's battle strength had surprised her. The nine-clawed dragon was known as the strongest monster of the divine dragon race and was extremely rare. There were not many of them when the divine dragon race was at its peak. Needless to say, there were not many people in the universe who could compete with the nine-clawed dragon in a battle of the same level. Only the peerless monsters of the angel race, soul race, blood race, and other races that were as famous as the divine dragon race could compete with the nine-clawed dragon. On the other hand, Lu Ming was merely a human. His combat power was definitely not inferior to that of the nine-clawed divine dragon. In fact, he seemed to be even stronger. This was simply too astonishing. Princess, what should we do now? Aoguan asked. Do you know what that strand of air that the various clans want is? Ao Yen did not answer Aoguan's question. Instead, she asked such a question. Aoguan and the others shook their heads, indicating that they did not know. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He seemed to be deep in thought but did not speak. I don't know what that wisp of energy is, but I know that it's definitely a treasure. It was listed as the top secret of the dragon race by my father and the others. Ao Yen said. Ao Guan and the others were shocked. Chapter 3661. Ao Yan's father, the palace master of the Divine Dragon Palace, was one of the strongest existences of the Divine Dragon race. For him to be classified as the top secret of the Divine Dragon race, just how shocking was that? Furthermore, I'm guessing that the reason why the various races, including the Heavenly Palace, attacked us back then is very likely related to that strand of energy. Ao Yen continued. What? Ao Guan and the others widened their eyes in shock. The reason the Heavenly Palace and the various races attacked the Divine Dragon race and led to the destruction of the Divine Dragon race was actually related to that strand of energy? Just what was that strand of energy? It was definitely unimaginable. Is that so? Although Lu Ming pretended to be shocked on the surface, many thoughts were running through his mind. It seemed that Ao Yen didn't know that strand of energy was a taboo. After Ao Guan and the others digested it, Ao Yen continued, I once heard my father mention that anyone who can successfully fuse with that strand of energy will undergo a transformation. Their talent will reach an unimaginable level, and when they grow in the future, they might even be able to threaten the Heavenly Palace. Without a doubt, this was another huge bomb that stunned Ao Guan and the others. What was the Heavenly Palace? The ruler of the great desolate universe. A supreme existence. Although the top 10 races of the great desolate universe were incomparably powerful, they couldn't withstand a single blow from the Heavenly Palace. For example, the Divine Dragon race was extremely powerful back then, but they still couldn't threaten the Heavenly Palace. But if they could fuse with that strand of energy, they could threaten the Heavenly Palace in the future. What kind of treasure was that? The eyes of Ao Guan and the others lit up. Right now, the various races outside are clearly trying to fuse with that strand of energy. What should we do? We can't just watch them fuse with it, right? Ao Guan was somewhat anxious. Don't worry, they won't be able to fuse with it. Ao Yan's expression was calm. If it was that easy, my divine dragon race would have already fused with it back then. In reality, fusing with that strand of energy is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult for the various races' geniuses to do it. They're currently hunting those giant fish. They're just trying to fuse with that strand of energy within the fish to create resistance and increase the success rate. But the success rate isn't very high. Ao Yen said. With that, Ao Guan and the others breathed a sigh of relief. However, they were still worried. Princess, we have to be careful. What if they fuse together? Ao Cheng frowned and was still very worried. That's why we can't be passive. We have to take action. That strand of chi is a treasure of our dragon clan. Only we are qualified to fuse with it. However, with our current state, fusing with it is extremely difficult. The success rate is extremely low. Furthermore, it's extremely dangerous. If we're not careful, we could die. Ao Yen said. Then we can also hunt those giant fishes and increase our resistance. Ao Guan suggested. However, Ao Yen shook her head. Hunting the giant fish is too slow. I have a better place to go. It will allow me to develop resistance faster and increase the success rate of fusing with that strand of qi. Ao Yen said. Since there is such a place, let's go quickly. Ao Guan said. However, Ao Yen did not move. She looked at Lu Ming. Brother Lu, do you want to join us? Ao Yen said. Sure. Lu Ming nodded. He had already made up his mind to fuse with the taboo power. He would give it a try. If it could increase the success rate, he would not reject it. Brother Lu, you can join us. However, I have a condition. Ao Yen said. What condition? Lu Ming asked. That strand of qi is a supreme treasure of our dragon clan. If Brother Lu succeeds in fusing with it, you will become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace in the future and avenge our dragon clan. After saying that, Ao Yen looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes. However, she did not think that Lu Ming would succeed. That strand of qi had been refined by the ancestors of the dragon clan for countless years. Logically speaking, the dragon clan should be more confident in fusing with it. The reason why she brought Lu Ming along was because she felt that Lu Ming's talent was not bad. Moreover, Lu Ming had saved Ao Guan. It was difficult for her to ask Lu Ming to leave directly. Therefore, she said that to let Lu Ming know the difficulty and retreat. Alright, I promise you. I can swear on my life origin. Lu Ming nodded. What? As soon as Lu Ming said that, Ao Yen, Ao Guan, Ao Qing, and the others widened their eyes. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Ao Yen was especially surprised. She had thought that Lu Ming would definitely refuse and leave. What was her condition? Who would dare to become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace? Ordinary people would be scared to death. She had thought that Lu Ming would definitely not dare to agree. She had not expected that Lu Ming would agree without hesitation. Brother Lu, I'm not just saying that casually. Ao Yen looked seriously at Lu Ming. Lu Ming immediately swore on his life origin. Lu Ming naturally would not hesitate. He had already known that fusing with the taboo power meant that he would become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace. He was just going with the flow. Good, Brother Lu is really brave. Ao Guan laughed heartily. Since Lu Ming dared to become an enemy of the Heavenly Palace, then whether or not Lu Ming succeeded, he had gained the favor of the dragon race's heavenly geniuses. The Heavenly Palace had been behind the destruction of the dragon race. The remaining heavenly geniuses of the dragon race were absolutely irreconcilable with the Heavenly Palace. Ao Yen also carefully examined Lu Ming and said, All right, then I'll take you to a place. Follow me. After saying that, Ao Yen plunged into the lava. Ao Guan, Ao Qing, and the others followed closely behind. Lu Ming was surprised. Could there be another world under the lava? Lu Ming did not hesitate. He covered his body with divine energy and also plunged into the lava. To tell the truth, the temperature of the lava here was shockingly high. Ordinary divine sovereigns would definitely not be able to withstand it and would be burned to ashes. Even the vine race's heavenly geniuses had been greatly affected. One could imagine how high the temperature was. As soon as he entered the lava, Lu Ming felt a powerful pressure. At the same time, a terrifyingly high temperature spread. Lu Ming felt like he was in a furnace. In such an environment, even with Lu Ming's current cultivation base, he wouldn't be able to withstand it for long. Ao Guan and the others also did their best to resist it. Then they followed Ao Yen down. After descending a certain distance, they changed direction and went to the side. After a while, Lu Ming suddenly felt that he had passed through a barrier. Thereafter, the high temperature outside disappeared without a trace. There really is another world. Lu Ming's eyes brightened. This was a passage. Both sides of the passage were filled with lava, but there was not the slightest bit of lava in this passage. They followed the lava for several tens of thousands of miles before reaching the end. When they exited the passage, they were met with another expanse of lava. After following the lava for a certain distance, they arrived at another passage. After repeating this several times, Lu Ming muttered to himself that this really was hidden. Chapter 3662. Passage, Magma, Passage. After repeating this several times, they finally saw a wall, a fiery red wall. However, there was a crack in the wall. They flew along the crack for a while before finally arriving at a spacious area. It was like an underground cave, but there was a circular pit in the middle. The pit was filled with a fiery red liquid. It looked like a pond with a diameter of about 100 meters. A scorching aura was constantly emitted from the pond. This aura, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He discovered that the aura in the pond was very similar to the aura that appeared after killing the giant fish, but it was many times denser. The liquid under the pond was left behind when the dragon race's expert refined that strand of qi. As far as I know, he refined it for a full stellar year. So the aura in this pond is very similar to that strand of qi. As long as we absorb that aura in this pond, it will definitely be many times faster than hunting the giant fish outside. Ao Yen explained. There's actually such a place? Good, then our success rate will definitely be very high. Ao Guan laughed, revealing an excited expression. However, we still have to be careful. The temperature of the liquid in the pond is very shocking. It's very painful in testing. If you can't bear it, you can come out first to adjust before entering. Ao Yen warned. Got it. Ao Guan smiled. Then he took a step forward and landed in the pond. His entire body sank into the liquid and he disappeared. Then, the other dragon race geniuses jumped into the pond one by one. Ao Yen nodded to Lu Ming and also jumped into the pond. Lu Ming followed closely behind. Lu Ming jumped like a pond and kept sinking, causing the red liquid to engulf his entire body. In the next moment, Lu Ming felt an incomparably scorching aura enter his body through his pores and then spread to his limbs, organs, and soul. It was as if all the cells in his body had fused into one. An incomparable stabbing pain spread throughout his body. Even Lu Ming let out a muffled groan. Pain, it was really painful. His body and soul felt like they were being constantly torn apart by countless sharp blades. It was too painful. If it was an ordinary person, they would have already let out a mournful scream, but Lu Ming forcibly held it in. This little bit of pain is nothing. No matter how much pain he is in, I won't move. Lu Ming muttered in his heart as he continued to descend. This pond was very deep. It was at least 1,000 meters deep. Lu Ming dove down a few hundred meters and then stood still, allowing the energy to enter his body. This was a process of fusion. This kind of energy had some of the characteristics of taboo energy. The more he fused with it, the stronger his resistance to taboo energy would be. At that time, the success rate of fusing with taboo energy would be higher. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. While the fiery red liquid churned as a young man rushed out of the pond. He landed beside the pond and gasped for breath. His face was filled with exhaustion as if he had suffered a severe mental exhaustion. Indeed, enduring that kind of pain in the pond at all times was very taxing on one's mind. This young man was an 8-clawed divine dragon. He was the first person to come out of the pond. It really is too unbearable. The young man took a deep breath and then sat down cross-legged. He began to circulate his cultivation technique and adjust his breathing. Not long after that young man came out, another young man came out. After that, every once in a while, another young man would come out to adjust his breathing. After a full 3 days, the first young man had adjusted his condition to the peak. Then he clenched his teeth and charged back into the pond. Not long after, the other young men also charged into the pond. 7 days after Lu Ming and the others entered the pond, Ao Guan and Ao Cheng charged out of the pond at the same time. He's cold. It's too painful. He can't endure it anymore. He needs to rest. Ao Guan shouted. He lay on the ground, not wanting to move. Ao Cheng was in a similar state as Ao Guan. We've endured it for 7 days. I wonder how the others are doing, said Ao Cheng. The princess will definitely be able to last longer than us. The others won't be able to last as long as us. But that Lu Ming is hard to say, said Ao Guan. Ao Cheng nodded. They continued to recover while waiting. After another 2 days, a silver figure flashed. Ao Yen charged out of the pond, her face somewhat pale. She lasted 2 days longer than us. Ao Guan and Ao Cheng both had looks of admiration on their faces. Even though they were all 9-clawed dragon, there were differences in talent. Ao Yan's talent was clearly stronger than theirs. They couldn't help but admire her. That Lu Ming still hasn't come out. Could it be that he can last longer than the princess? Ao Guan was doubtful. It can't be. Our dragon race has an advantage here. We can last longer here. How can he last longer than us? I reckon that he came out before us. After resting, he went back in. Ao Cheng clearly didn't believe it. It's possible. Ao Guan nodded. Their recovery ability was very strong. After resting for 2 days, they continued to enter the pond. Ao Yan's recovery ability was even more shocking. She only rested for a day before entering the pond again. Just like that, everyone would return to the shore to rest and recover every once in a while. But Ao Guan, Ao Cheng, and the others didn't encounter Lu Ming even once. They did encounter the others. They could only think that they and Lu Ming's resting time just happened to be different. That was why they didn't encounter him. But they didn't know that Lu Ming didn't come out at all. Lu Ming had been silently enduring under the pond. Under the pond, the greatest test was one's willpower and endurance. Endurance for pain. The dragon race's physique could reduce the pain in the pond. So Ao Guan and the others thought they had an advantage. However, Lu Ming's willpower was already so strong that it was shocking. Ever since Lu Yao had taken away his bloodline, he had experienced many things along the way. What kind of pain had he not experienced? His spirit was already tenacious, harder than steel. Pain on the body, immovable. So Lu Ming had been enduring and didn't go out to recover. This way, the aura of the taboo power he absorbed was naturally more than the others. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. During these 3 months, they had been absorbing this aura. Their cultivation base and battle strength hadn't made any progress. Their main purpose was to develop resistance to the taboo power. After 3 months of absorption, the aura of the taboo power in the pond was very faint. It was almost gone. They all rushed out of the pond. Chapter 3663. There's a slight change. Lu Ming carefully sensed his body. His cultivation base, divine power, secret techniques, and so on were all the same as before. There was no change. However, Lu Ming kept feeling that there was a slight change, but he couldn't put his finger on it. It should be related to the aura of the taboo power. All right, we're almost ready. Let's go and try it, Ao Yen said. Then, they returned to the magma lake and headed towards the place where the taboo power was. When they arrived at the place where the taboo power was, they discovered that many people had gathered around the red lotus. Someone was trying to fuse the taboo power. A prodigy stepped forward and kept approaching the red lotus. This youth was only a 3rd-level divine lord, but he was already within 100 meters of the red lotus. He was even closer than a 6th-level divine lord prodigy 3 months ago. This might be related to the absorption of that aura from hunting the giant fish during this period of time. His body had developed a resistance to it. However, when he was within 100 meters, the pressure on this youth obviously increased greatly. His speed slowed down a lot. However, he didn't turn into ashes like those youths who tried 3 months ago. A layer of red light appeared on his body, seemingly blocking the energy outside. Slowly, he finally got close and landed on the lotus. The youth's expression was solemn. He took a deep breath and reached out to grab the taboo power. However, when he grabbed the taboo power, his face revealed a look of horror. Then, his body exploded with a bang, turning into ashes and disappearing. These people want to fuse with it? They're overestimating themselves. Ao Yen sneered. Lu Ming and the others were very far away and didn't get close. That's the 13th one. Someone whispered. 13 have already died. This is too dangerous. I'd better not try. Many people shook their heads. Although the position of heavenly son or heavenly daughter was tempting, they also needed to be alive. If they were dead, everything was meaningless. However, there were also people who were unwilling and wanted to try. After all, it was the heavenly palace's heavenly son or heavenly daughter. Once they became such a person, they wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources in the future. Their cultivation would definitely skyrocket. Moreover, their status would also skyrocket. The emperor or heavenly lady of the heavenly palace, even if they went to the top 10 races, the almighties of those races would have to treat them with respect. They could simply run amok in the universe. Who wouldn't be tempted? I'll do it. Another young man stepped forward. His eyes were bloodshot. This was a monstrous level character, already having cultivation of 4th level divine lord realm. He gritted his teeth and stepped towards the red lotus flower. He was even faster than the previous young man. Soon he approached the lotus and stepped onto it. The young man took a few deep breaths before a vicious look appeared on his face. He reached out and grabbed the forbidden power. This time, the young man didn't immediately turn into ashes. Instead, the wisp of forbidden energy wriggled out of the young man's palm and entered his body. Did it work? Many people's hearts were beating wildly, and some even revealed looks of jealousy. But in the next moment, the young man let out a shrill and despairing scream. "No!" The young man roared. Then, a layer of red light appeared on the surface of his body. Then he followed in the footsteps of the previous young man. His body exploded and turned into ashes. That strand of taboo power reappeared. He died again. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Not only was it difficult to fuse with this strand of energy, but it was also extremely dangerous. If one didn't succeed, only death would await them. Is there really no way to succeed? Perhaps they just don't have enough talent. Everyone discussed spiritedly. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. After a while, "I'll do it," a voice sounded. Then, a tall and burly figure stepped forward. "It's him, Jin Yan." Everyone's hearts shook. Jin Yan, this peak monster, was about to make a move? Bang, bang. Jin Yan's body shone with multicolored light as he approached the lotus. His speed was extremely fast, and he quickly arrived on top of the lotus. His eyes were grave. He didn't immediately attack. Instead, he waited until he was in his best state before attacking. He first took out a metal box, wanting to store the taboo power inside. But as soon as the taboo power entered the metal box, it immediately burned and turned to ashes. Don't waste your energy. This strand of energy can only be absorbed. It can't store anything else. Someone already tried before. Someone said. Jin Yan's expression changed. In the end, he gritted his teeth and grabbed the taboo power in his hand. After grabbing it, the taboo power directly entered Jin Yan's palm. Will it work? Everyone felt their hearts beat faster. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, a full 30 seconds passed, but Jin Yan was still fine. Will it work? However, right at that moment, Jin Yan roared. Divine power erupted from his body as he rapidly retreated. As he retreated, the taboo power seemed to have been forced out of his body. Then Jin Yan retreated tens of thousands of meters, vomiting blood. His body was tattered, and his aura was extremely weak. He had obviously been seriously injured. But he didn't die. He was the first genius who had survived after fusing with the taboo power. Damn it! Jin Yan roared, extremely unwilling. But in the end he gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Now that he was seriously injured, and he had many enemies here, it would be very dangerous for him to stay. Some of the Vajra race's geniuses protected Jin Yan and left. Lu Ming was a little tempted. He wanted to go down and get rid of Jin Yan, but after thinking about it, he suppressed the impulse in his heart. The taboo power was more important. Now that there was such a good opportunity to observe, he would do it first. Jin Yan's survival made many geniuses look forward to it, especially those who were not weaker than Jin Yan. Since Jin Yan was not dead, they became much bolder. It was just an injury, so they could give it a try. Sure enough, in the next moment, a genius rushed up. Obviously, this genius had also entered more than 30 years ago, and was a genius on the same level as Jin Yan. Seeing that Jin Yan was not dead, he was confident that he was not weaker than Jin Yan, so he wanted to go up and give it a try. Soon, he arrived at the lotus and reached out to grab the taboo power. The taboo power rushed into his body from his palm. 1 second, 2 seconds, that Sky Pride only managed to hold on for 25 seconds before he bellowed out in rage and retreated, forcing out the taboo energy. This genius followed in Jin Yan's footsteps and was also seriously injured. Chapter 3664. That prodigy did not dare to stay any longer and quickly left. It was normal for many races to have enmity with each other. Who could guarantee that these races did not have their enemies here? After that prodigy left, someone else went up. At least they would not die. Many top monsters became much bolder. These people want to fuse with the taboo power? What a fool's dream. Even if the top 10 monsters of the great desolate 10,000 races come, they won't succeed. But those who can successfully fuse with it are all peerless geniuses. They have great luck, peerless talent, and are born extraordinary. These people are far too lacking. In the sea of consciousness, Gu Mo sneered. Sure enough, more top monsters went up. Although these top-notch geniuses could survive, none of them could succeed. In fact, none of them could last more than a minute. The strongest one only lasted for 50 seconds before retreating with serious injuries. There was even one who lasted for more than 10 seconds. Although he retreated, he died on the spot because of his serious injuries. There were at least 20 top-notch monstrous geniuses who went up, but none of them succeeded. These monsters were all seriously injured and left to find a place to recuperate. Everyone looked at each other. It seemed that they would not succeed. Would they have to wait a few decades for more monsters to come in before they could succeed? Let's go, Ao Yen said. Now that the top monsters of the various races had been seriously injured, it was time for them to make a move. This was a good opportunity. If those top monsters were here, they would not be allowed to make a move so easily. Swoosh, swoosh. They flew forward. When they got close, they were immediately discovered. It's the dragon race. The remnants of the dragon race have appeared. And that Lu Ming. When many people looked at them, their eyes were filled with a fiery light. The dragon race, Lu Ming. If they could capture either one, they would be heavily rewarded. If they could not fuse with that wisp of energy, they would not be able to become the son of heaven or daughter of heaven. However, if they could capture Lu Ming and the others, the rewards would be very tempting. Immediately, many people rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Remnants of the dragon race, surrender! Many people roared and directly attacked. Dazzling divine light burst out. However, not many people attacked Lu Ming. Many people had seen Lu Ming's combat strength before. Only top geniuses could compete with him. However, they had no idea how powerful Ao Guan and the others were. Courting death. Ao Guan, Ao Cheng, and the others roared angrily, reverting to their original forms and pouncing forward. The dragon claw stepped on the air, and a terrifying force exploded. Instantly, miserable screams rose and fell. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 young men were killed by Ao Guan and Ao Cheng. Kill! At the same time, Lu Ming, Ao Yen, and the other 4 8-clawed divine dragons also attacked. As soon as they made their moves, the situation became even more one-sided. A terrifying power burst forth as the geniuses of the various races were killed one after another. Without those top-notch geniuses, ordinary geniuses would be completely at the mercy of Lu Ming and the others. In just a short while, more than 100 Sky Prides of various races were killed. The others were scared out of their wits and frantically retreated. 9-clawed dragon, it's the 9-clawed dragon. Quickly retreat! Those people shouted in horror. For a moment, no one dared to step forward to attack Lu Ming and the others. Some races wanted to set up a battle formation to surround and kill Lu Ming and the others. However, someone stopped them. These remnants of the dragon race seem to want to fuse with that stream of energy. Then let them fuse with it. When they fail, they will definitely be severely injured. It won't be too late for us to attack then. That makes sense. The Sky Prides of various races discussed for a while before nodding and retreating, allowing Lu Ming and the others to approach the forbidden power. Lu Ming and the others were not afraid. With the few of them working together and the top-notch geniuses of various races retreating, the remaining people's combat strength was far inferior to theirs. Even if they set up a battle formation, they could still easily retreat. Moreover, Ao Yen could summon the giant fish in the lava to attack. Although the sky prides of various races had hunted a large number of giant fish during this period of time, the lava lake was very vast and deep. There were many giant fish, and it was impossible to kill them all so easily. This was their confidence. You guys go first. Ao Yen first looked at the 4 8-clawed divine dragons. All right. The 4 8-clawed divine dragons nodded. Then, one of the 8-clawed divine dragons wriggled up and headed towards the forbidden power. When it reached the lotus, it stretched out a dragon claw and grabbed the forbidden power. The forbidden power rushed into the 8-clawed divine dragon's body. The 8-clawed divine dragon's body suddenly trembled violently, but it was blocked. 1 second, 2 seconds. Soon, a minute passed. Yes, it had already been longer than the longest time the sky prides of various races had taken. It can't be. Could it be that the dragon race can fuse with it? Perhaps it's really possible. After all, this stream of energy belongs to the dragon race. The sky prides of various races felt their hearts sink. What should we do? Continue to observe the situation. Even if the dragon race fuses with it, they won't be able to escape. What the Heavenly Palace wants is not something they can get their hands on. Some of them secretly discussed. Soon, 2 minutes passed. That 8-clawed divine dragon was still persevering. The longer they persevered, the greater the success rate. There were 2 reasons why the 8-clawed divine dragon could persevere for so long. The first was that they had absorbed too much of the aura related to the forbidden power in the pond and had developed a strong resistance. The second reason was that they were from the dragon race. Originally, the forbidden power did not have any attributes. However, after the dragon race obtained it and refined it for many years, it already had a trace of the dragon race's attributes. Therefore, the forbidden power would fluctuate and sometimes take the form of a dragon. This was advantageous to the dragon race. He definitely won't succeed, Guillemot said with certainty. Sure enough, after 3 minutes, the 8-clawed divine dragon could no longer endure it. He roared and retreated, and the forbidden power flew out of his body. Pooh! The 8-clawed divine dragon coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. He was seriously injured. Heal your injuries first, Ao Yen said to the 8-clawed divine dragon. The 8-clawed divine dragon nodded, took out a few divine herbs, swallowed them, and began to heal his injuries. Next, another 8-clawed divine dragon went up to try, but he also failed. I won't go up. You guys go up. I won't go up either. The last 2 8-clawed divine dragons shook their heads. Their talent was similar to the previous 2 8-clawed divine dragons. They knew that it would be useless for them to go up. Moreover, the sky prides of various races were eyeing them covetously. It was better for them to preserve their full strength to deal with unexpected situations. Let me do it. Then Ao Guan stepped forward and came to the lotus. He grabbed the forbidden power with his dragon claws. The forbidden power entered Ao Guan's body and he began to fuse with it. Chapter 3665. The 9-clawed dragon's talent was unquestionable. It was a peak monster of the dragon race. It was much stronger than the 8-clawed divine dragon. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, soon, 10 minutes had passed. Ao Guan was still persevering. This made the expressions of the various races' geniuses turn ugly. Their talent was far from the 9-clawed dragons. This was the talent of the top 10 races' geniuses. If the top 10 races' geniuses were so terrifying, then what about the legendary Heavenly Palace's geniuses? What about the Heavenly Palace's heavenly sons and daughters? Just how monstrous were they? Time quickly passed as everyone's thoughts ran wild. 20 minutes, 21 minutes, half an hour had passed. Yes, Ao Guan had persevered for half an hour. But this was his limit. His body began to tremble, and layers of red light appeared on his body. There were even traces of blood seeping out. Ao Guan roared, extremely unwilling. He still hadn't given up. He clenched his teeth and persevered. But more and more blood seeped out of his body, and cracks even appeared on his body. Ao Guan, don't force yourself. Ao Yen transmitted her voice to Ao Guan. If this continued, Ao Guan would die. Ao Guan roared in the end and gave up. He retreated, and the taboo energy also flew out. Ao Guan returned to Lu Ming's side, took out a divine medicine, and swallowed it. It's too difficult. I feel like there's no hope of success. Ao Guan shook his head, extremely unwilling. Ao Cheng, you go. Ao Yen looked at Ao Cheng. However, Ao Cheng shook his head. He glanced at the surroundings and said, Princess, you should go. His talent was about the same as Ao Guan's. If Ao Guan couldn't succeed, then he most likely wouldn't have a chance either. Moreover, Ao Guan was injured. He couldn't be injured again, or it would be very dangerous. It was better to give this chance to Ao Yen. Ao Yen was the most talented among them. If even Ao Yen couldn't succeed, then they wouldn't have any hope either. Okay. Ao Yen nodded and flew toward the taboo energy. Soon, the taboo energy entered her body. Time quickly passed. Ao Yen's talent was indeed above Ao Guan's. Half an hour quickly passed, and Ao Yen was still enduring. Moreover, she didn't seem to be feeling. The expressions of the various geniuses changed. Should we make a move now? There's a 9-clawed dragon among the dragon race that's injured. Their fighting strength has been greatly reduced. Someone secretly said, No, now is not the time. That silver 9-clawed dragon is too strong. She's not injured yet. If we attack now, she'll definitely give up on fusing with that strand of chi and attack us. Let's continue waiting. It won't be too late to make a move when she's injured. Someone said. Good idea. Everyone continued to wait. Soon, an hour had passed. Ao Yen had actually endured for an hour. This was an astonishing achievement. One had to know that the longest time for the other prodigies was only 50 seconds. The difference was simply too great. However, at this moment, Ao Yan's silver body also started to tremble. It was as if she was enduring an enormous pressure. Another minute passed. Ao Yen shouted as she quickly retreated outside. The taboo energy flew out from her body. Princess, why don't you continue to persevere? Ao Cheng said. Ao Yen clearly hadn't reached her limit yet. No need. I can already feel that I won't succeed. There's no point in persisting. Ao Yen shook her head. At this moment, Ao Yen wasn't seriously injured. If she continued, she would also be seriously injured, which would be very disadvantageous for them. Most importantly, he could feel that even if she continued to persevere, she wouldn't succeed. There was no hope. Even the princess can't succeed? Ao Cheng sighed. If even the princess can't succeed, then who else can? Princess Ao Yen was one of the top prodigies even during the dragon race's heyday. She was even ranked at the top. If even she couldn't succeed, who else could? She's not injured. The hearts of the prodigies sank when they saw that Ao Yen wasn't injured. Ao Yan's strength was too strong. Since she wasn't injured, they didn't dare to make a move. Some people secretly discussed and finally decided to wait for the top prodigies to recover from their injuries before making a move. Brother Lu, do you want to try? At this moment, Ao Yen looked at Lu Ming. Since I'm here, I naturally have to give it a try. Lu Ming nodded, then stepped forward and walked towards the taboo energy. When he arrived above the lotus, he looked at the taboo energy above the lotus. It would sometimes turn into a transparent gas, and sometimes into a small dragon. Come. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. It was so difficult to fuse with it that even Ao Yen had failed. He wanted to see it for himself. Lu Ming reached out and grasped the taboo power in his hand. Boom. Suddenly, the taboo energy burst out with a terrifying heat that covered Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He circulated his divine power and his muscles bulged, blocking this energy. If it was an ordinary person, they would probably be turned to ashes by this energy. Of course, this was just the beginning. When Lu Ming blocked this energy, the taboo energy twisted and entered Lu Ming's palm. Once it entered Lu Ming's palm, the taboo energy immediately scattered. 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 8. In an instant, it turned into countless tiny streams of energy that scattered throughout Lu Ming's body, entering every cell. Then, an incomparable pain erupted from Lu Ming's body. This pain was similar to when he fused with the taboo energy in the pond, but it was dozens of times stronger. Those with insufficient willpower would not be able to endure it. Divine power. Lu Ming barely managed to stay awake. He wanted to circulate his divine power to counteract this pain, but he discovered that he had already lost control of his divine power. His 11 divine powers seemed to be suppressed by a majestic power. They were firmly suppressed within the star core, unable to circulate. Even his origin secret techniques were unable to circulate. It could be said that nothing could circulate. The only thing Lu Ming could do now was persevere. Persevere. Lu Ming returned to his original state and persevered. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, very quickly, half an hour passed. Lu Ming was still persevering. He can actually persevere for half an hour. Ao Yen, Ao Cheng, and the others were shocked. Lu Ming was only a human, but he could persevere for half an hour. It had to be known that Ao Guan was a 9-clawed dragon, but he had only lasted half an hour. That kid. The various geniuses of the desolate universe were also tongue-tied. If it was said that the dragon race could persevere for so long, it would be reasonable. After all, the 9-clawed dragon's body was famous throughout the universe. Furthermore, this stream of energy also belonged to the dragon race. It was normal for a dragon to be able to persevere for so long. But Lu Ming was only a human. Chapter 3666. However, this was only the beginning of Lu Ming's shock. Half an hour was just the beginning. Then, time passed minute by minute. Soon it was an hour. This was already equal to Ao Yan's record. This, Ao Yen, Ao Cheng, and the other prodigies were all dumbfounded. It was already a miracle that a human could last so long. However, the miracle continued. 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Soon, Lu Ming had lasted for 3 hours. Damn it, this kid won't succeed, right? Impossible, he can't succeed. The prodigies of the various races were discussing, but most of them were envious and jealous. One had to know that once Lu Ming succeeded and joined the heavenly palace, he would be directly conferred the title of emperor. It would be strange if these people were not envious and jealous. They all prayed that Lu Ming would not succeed. Can he succeed? Ao Yen and the others also widened their eyes. Contrary to the prodigies of the various races, they hoped that Lu Ming would succeed. Lu Ming had previously sworn that once he succeeded, he would become an enemy of the heavenly palace. Although Lu Ming was not a member of the dragon race, it was still better than someone of the other races fusing. This was because Ao Yen had already failed. Almost no one from the dragon race could succeed. If this continued, the heavenly palace would take it away sooner or later. Because if this continued, in a few years, even stronger prodigies would come in from the outside. If this continued, who knew if anyone would be able to fuse? Therefore, they hoped that Lu Ming would fuse with them. However, after 3 hours, Lu Ming had also reached his limit. His body began to tremble, and blood seeped out of his skin. The continuous pain made his mind on the verge of collapse. Kid, hold on. If you have potential, you will burst out in a desperate situation. If not, I will help you retreat. Guemo transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded silently and continued to grit his teeth and persevere. Wave after wave of pain was about to drown his mind. His will was like a taut string that was about to snap. Just as Lu Ming was about to give up, a powerful force suddenly burst out from the depths of his soul, from the depths of his mind. As soon as this power appeared, his spirit was shaken, and he immediately recovered. At the same time, every cell in his body seemed to be bursting with energy, causing his injured body to quickly recover. As expected, it's effective. I knew your potential wasn't limited to this. Bone laughed loudly. Senior Bone Devil, what happened just now? What kind of power was that? Lu Ming asked. He was very curious. Right now, all of his divine energy had been suppressed by the taboo energy. How could there be a burst of energy that allowed him to recover at such a crucial moment? That's your untapped potential. Guemo said. Potential? Lu Ming was puzzled. Yes, it's potential. This means that you still have potential to be unearthed. Your talent isn't limited to this, but don't be happy too early. With your current level, you still can't fuse with the taboo energy. Let's see if you still have potential to be unearthed. Guillemot said. Lu Ming nodded silently in his heart, and then continued to persevere. This time, Lu Ming persevered for a longer time. He persevered for another 6 hours. Adding the previous 3 hours, he had persevered for a total of 9 hours. The scene was silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was this really the rhythm of success? At this time, Lu Ming had reached his limit again. Lu Ming roared. His eyes were bloodshot as he desperately persevered. The pain this time was stronger than the previous time. Just as Lu Ming was about to collapse, another burst of energy burst out. In an instant, Lu Ming recovered. As expected, there's still potential. But it's still not enough. Guillemot sighed. Lu Ming was speechless. What else could Lu Ming say? He gritted his teeth and continued to persevere. This time, after more than 10 hours, Lu Ming reached his limit again. Then, another burst of energy burst out. 3 times. Guillemot whispered. At this moment, the soul fire in his eye sockets was flickering. He seemed to be very surprised. To burst out potential 3 times in a row, this was absolutely shocking. Even with his experience, he had never seen such a thing before. This meant that even if Lu Ming cultivated step by step and slowly developed his potential, he could reach a very terrifying realm in the future. However, this wasn't Lu Ming's limit. After a while, Lu Ming burst out potential for the 4th time. But after the 4th time, it was the 5th time. Later on, each time he persevered, it would be longer than the previous time. By the 5th time, Lu Ming had already persevered for 7 days. 5 times, it's already been 5 times. There should be a possibility of success. Guillemot's bones were trembling slightly. At first, he thought that Lu Ming wouldn't succeed, but now, it was hard to say. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly entered a strange state. Originally, he was surrounded by endless pain, but that pain suddenly disappeared. Am I going to succeed? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly sat cross-legged on the lotus. He carefully sensed it, and his spiritual sense penetrated into every cell. He had a feeling that the taboo energy was filling every cell, as if it was about to fuse with his cells. I'm really going to succeed. It seems that my talent is comparable to a peerless genius. Lu Ming thought narcissistically. He felt that he was really going to succeed. After a while, the taboo energy would completely fuse with his cells. But at this time, more figures appeared in the crowd. These figures were the top monsters who had failed to fuse with the taboo energy. They were seriously injured and retreated to recuperate. During this period, their injuries were almost recovered. Damn it, is this kid going to succeed? Jean Yan's eyes burst out with shocking killing intent. We can't let this kid continue. Let's attack and kill them. We'll deal with those dragons while we're at it. All right, let's attack. These top monsters transmitted their voices to each other, reaching a consensus. Shwa shwa. They suddenly charged out. In an instant, there were at least a dozen peak monsters who weren't weaker than Jean Yan, charging at Lu Ming. They're attacking. Ao Yen and the others were constantly paying attention to their surroundings. The moment Jean Yan and the others attacked, they noticed it. Block them. Ao Guan let out a long howl and rushed out. After 5 days of recuperation, Ao Guan's injuries were more or less healed. At the same time, Ao Cheng and the others also charged out. Ao Yen, in particular, roared, and the lava lake boiled. Giant fish appeared one after another, opening their mouths and shooting arrows at Jean Yan and the others. Ever since Jean Yan and the others had recovered from their injuries and returned, Ao Yen knew that a huge battle was unavoidable. Hence, she had secretly summoned those giant fishes to hide under the lava lake. Chapter 3667. The scene fell into a chaotic battle. At least 100 giant fishes shot out thousands of arrows towards Jean Yan and the others, enveloping them. At the same time, Ao Yen and the others launched their attacks, blocking the attacks of Jean Yan and the others. We must stop them and wait for Lu Ming to succeed. Ao Yen roared, and her silver-white dragon body emitted a dazzling divine light. Every ray of divine light turned into an incomparably sharp blade, slashing in all directions. Ao Cheng, Ao Guan, and the others also did their best to stall the dozen or so top monsters. All of you attack together. What are you waiting for? Do you really want to wait for that kid to succeed? Jin Yen roared, his voice spreading in all directions. Attack! Kill that kid and you will be heavily rewarded. Kill! The surrounding paragons of various clans could not hold themselves back. One after another, they charged toward Lu Ming. Ao Yen roared, summoning the giant fish to block them. Hundreds of giant fish rolled in the magma lake, and the magma lake turned into magma waves that rushed towards the geniuses in all directions. At the same time, numerous glittering and translucent arrows with astonishing power shot out in all directions. Immediately, many people were blocked. Kill these giant fish first. Without these giant fish, there will only be a few divine dragons left. They won't be able to do anything. Someone roared. Then, the geniuses of the various races changed their target and attacked the giant fish. There were too many geniuses of the various races, and there were so many top monsters. These giant fish could not stop them at all. Instantly, the giant fish were killed one after another. The number of giant fish rapidly decreased. Not good, we can't stop them. What should we do? Ao Yen and the others were a little anxious. If they retreated now, Lu Ming would definitely die. Block them for as long as possible. Try to buy time for Lu Ming. Ao Yen gritted her teeth. Her body rapidly expanded to over 1,000,000 meters long, and her dragon claws stepped on the air, enveloping a large group of geniuses. You want to stop us? Dream on. Today we will kill you, nine-clawed dragon. A two-headed giant wolf snorted coldly and pouncing towards Ao Yen. This two-headed giant wolf had 7th-level Divine Lord Cultivation. Its combat power was not weaker than Ao Yen's at all. The two of them fought fiercely. With the help of the other Sky Prides, Ao Yen was at a disadvantage. Ao Guan and the others were also at a disadvantage and were in imminent danger. Lu Ming took note of all these situations. His spiritual senses scanned all of them. It should be about time. Lu Ming murmured. He felt that the fusion should have been successful. Even if it ended now, the taboo energy was already his. Then let's do it. Lu Ming muttered. He suddenly stood up, wanting to erupt with divine power. However, when he tried to circulate his divine power, he realized that it was difficult to circulate it. The speed at which it circulated was dozens of times slower than before. It was being suppressed by the taboo power. It can't be, right? I've fused with the taboo energy, and my divine power is suppressed. Wouldn't that be a loss? Lu Ming wailed in his heart. This was extremely bad news. He hurriedly asked Bone. This, I'm not sure either. Guemo muttered. Hi-hee-hee. Lu Ming really wanted to curse. You're not sure either? Don't you know everything? Lu Ming almost vomited blood. Bone seemed to be a little embarrassed and continued to mutter. I'm guessing that the taboo energy is too strong, too high level. That's why it suppressed the other divine powers. Moreover, you've just fused with the taboo energy, so you can't use it freely. When you try more in the future, you should be able to achieve a balance and it won't affect the other divine powers. Of course, these are all my guesses. As for the specifics, it's up to you to figure it out yourself. At the end, Bone Demon added another sentence, rendering Lu Ming speechless. It seems that I can only use the taboo energy to fight. Lu Ming pondered. Since he couldn't circulate his divine power, he could only rely on the taboo energy. Immediately, ignoring the divine power, Lu Ming shook his bones and muscles, mobilizing all the power in his muscles and bones, and rushed out. Boom! Lu Ming's body shot out like a cannonball. His speed was astonishing. Brat died. The one in front of Lu Ming was a top monster, Jin Yen. He exuded a golden glow from head to toe and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Lu Ming shouted, but he could only throw a punch. Now, he couldn't circulate his divine power and couldn't use his secret techniques. He could only fight with his physical body. Since the taboo energy had fused with every cell in his body, it should be able to strengthen his physical body. Lu Ming could only look forward to it. You want to compete with me in terms of physical body? You're courting death. Jin Yen was ecstatic when he saw Lu Ming use his fist to fight against his fist. His eyes flashed with a sinister light. He was from the Vajra race, and his body was as tough as diamond. In the primitive universe, there were very few people who could compare with the Vajra race in terms of physical body. Boom. In the next moment, their fists collided like two planets colliding. Then the sinister light in Jin Yan's eyes disappeared and was replaced by shock, disbelief, and then pain. Crack. The sound of bones breaking rang out. Of course, it came from Jin Yan's arm. Cracks began to appear on his golden fist. More and more cracks began to appear, covering his entire arm. It was as if he was a broken piece of porcelain. Then, with a loud bang, his entire arm exploded. Jin Yan screamed and retreated. So powerful. Even Lu Ming was shocked. He had fought Jin Yan several times before, and he knew how strong Jin Yan's fists were. But now, his entire arm had been shattered by a single punch. The taboo energy has fused with every cell. My physical body has become so strong. Lu Ming thought about it and was delighted. Die. Those thoughts passed in a flash, and Lu Ming charged at Jin Yan. Lu Ming's muscles and bones trembled, pushing his body forward. His speed was astonishing, and he caught up to Jin Yan in an instant. Then he threw a punch. Boom. A huge explosion occurred in the air as a terrifying power surged towards Jin Yan like an avalanche. Jin Yan screamed. Lu Ming's punch made him feel like he was about to die. His body began to shine, and he curled into a ball and began to spin. This was his strongest move. This move could be used both offensively and defensively. If he wasn't a match for his opponent, he could even borrow his opponent's strength to escape. His body was like a vertical spinning top. Boom. Lu Ming's fist landed. An even louder explosion rang out. Following that, the spinning top that Golden Inferno had transformed into flew out and stopped spinning. Jin Yan's body was now covered in cracks. How is this possible? Jin Yan said in disbelief. Then, with a bang, he exploded. Chapter 3668. This time, it wasn't just Jin Yan's arm that exploded. His entire body and soul were destroyed. He was killed by Lu Ming with a single punch. The others were all shocked. The peak monster was killed just like that. Wasn't this too fast? Lu Ming did not stop. With a turn of his body, he threw another punch at the group of elites of the various clans. The air exploded as the terrifying fist pressure pressed forward. Immediately, a large number of geniuses were killed before they could even scream. There were at least a few dozen of them. Retreat! The remaining people in that area screamed and frantically retreated. Lu Ming didn't chase after them. These people weren't a threat. His target was the peak experts that had entered the dragon race's mother planet over 30 years ago. With a turn of his body, Lu Ming charged toward another top-notch expert, the prodigy of the multi-hand race. This person had also attacked him before. The multi-hand race's genius's expression changed when he saw Lu Ming charge over. He had seen Jin Yan's fate. So he didn't dare let Lu Ming get close. His 8 arms lit up and formed seals. In an instant, 8 attacks condensed. There were divine pagodas, divine mountains, sabers, and swords. 8 different attacks fell on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's attack was very simple. He threw a punch and the 8 types of attacks exploded. Lu Ming's figure rapidly approached the 8-armed young man. Not good. The 8-armed youth's expression changed. He charged to the side, wanting to borrow the strength of the other experts to fight Lu Ming. But even though he was fast, Lu Ming was even faster. His muscles moved the air, pushing him forward. He was even faster than when he was using the wind-extinguishing boots. In an instant he approached the 8-armed youth and punched. The 8-armed youth was unable to block Lu Ming's attack. He followed in Jin Yan's footsteps and was directly killed. A 6th-level Divine Lord top-notch monster was not Lu Ming's match at all. Upon seeing this, the surrounding top geniuses were astounded. They immediately backed off and distanced themselves from Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming would not let them go. He charged out explosively, charging towards one of them. In the end, that person failed to escape and was killed by Lu Ming. Then, he continued to chase after the next one. "Brat, don't be so arrogant." With a furious roar, a huge crocodile charged towards Lu Ming. This was a crocodile as long as 100 meters. It was also a top monster. Moreover, its cultivation was astonishing, reaching the 7th level Divine Lord realm, the same level as the two-headed wolf race youth. Swish! The crocodile's tail lashed out like a steel whip, creating a loud sound as it whipped the air. A strong wind blew as it swept towards Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming punched out again and collided with the crocodile's tail. With a loud bang, the crocodile's tail was blasted back, but it did not explode. They were both peak geniuses, but with a higher cultivation level, they were much stronger. They could even be instantly killed. This was also the reason the crocodile had dared to fight Lu Ming after seeing Lu Ming's combat power. "Kill!" The crocodile roared, killing intent flickering in its eyes. Its huge body pounced at Lu Ming. He opened his mouth, and the teeth in his mouth transformed into sharp sabers that flew towards Lu Ming. Clang! Lu Ming punched out, clashing with the sabers. The sabers were sent flying, but they didn't explode. Interesting. Again. Lu Ming clenched his fists and constantly punched. His attacks were like a storm. He wanted to see how strong he was at the peak of his combat strength. Boom, boom. Explosions constantly rang out. In an instant, Lu Ming had sent out hundreds of punches. The crocodile finally couldn't resist anymore. First, the sabers formed from his teeth shattered. Then, the dense fist energy landed on the crocodile's body and directly blew it apart. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and scales flew everywhere. The expressions of the various races' geniuses all changed greatly. The crocodile couldn't be compared to Jin Yen, the 8-armed youth, and the others. The crocodile was a peak 7th level Divine Lord. It could be said that he was one of the strongest geniuses who had entered the dragon race's mother planet more than 30 years ago. There was no one stronger than them. Even such people were killed by Lu Ming. It could be said that in the current dragon race's mother planet, Lu Ming was already invincible. Go! The various races' geniuses were truly afraid. They didn't dare to stay and frantically retreated, flying towards the sky. They wanted to leave this place and return to the surface of the dragon race's mother planet. Some of the peak geniuses also began to flee. Don't even think about leaving! Ao Yen roared, doing her best to hold back the two-headed wolf race youth. Very good. Lu Ming's gaze also turned towards the two-headed wolf race youth. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he took a step forward and charged towards the two-headed wolf race youth. Damn it! The two-headed wolf race youth roared in his heart. He was incomparably anxious as he constantly charged forward, wanting to escape. However, Ao Yen risked her own injuries to hold him back. It was very difficult for him to escape in a short period of time. With this delay, Lu Ming had already arrived. Boom! Lu Ming didn't need any techniques now. He just raised his fists and punched wildly. The two-headed wolf race's prodigy's combat strength was about the same as the crocodile's. And now, Lu Ming and Ao Yen were jointly attacking. He couldn't resist at all. After a few dozen punches from Lu Ming, the two-headed wolf race's prodigy let out a miserable cry and exploded. At this time, the other race's geniuses had already completely retreated. They frantically flew towards the sky, wanting to use that passage to return to the surface. Ao Guan, Ao Cheng, and the others let out a long breath. Then, their gazes fell on Lu Ming. There was envy, surprise, and disbelief. Brother Lu, did you really succeed? Ao Guan asked. His eyes were full of worship for Lu Ming. He had personally tried to fuse with that wisp of qi, so he knew how difficult it was. He had tried his best, but only lasted for half an hour. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had lasted for more than 5 days. He simply couldn't imagine how Lu Ming had persevered for so long. It should be considered a success. Lu Ming said. He wasn't very sure. After all, he couldn't even circulate his divine power smoothly now. It must have succeeded. If it hadn't, that wisp of qi wouldn't have stayed in your body for long. It would have flown out. Ao Yen said with a complicated expression. No one knew what she was thinking. I still can't control it very well. I need to explore it more, Lu Ming said. Next, they chatted for a while. At this time, there was an uproar in the illusory divine jade. Someone had already used the illusory divine jade to record the previous scene and sent it to the illusory space. The news that Lu Ming had succeeded in fusing with the qi was also sent, causing a huge commotion. Lu Ming had actually succeeded in fusing with the power that even the Heavenly Palace cared about. Chapter 3669. This caused a huge uproar in the primitive universe. Countless people were discussing and paying attention. Even the top races were the same. As for the races whose geniuses Lu Ming had killed, they were furious and said that they wanted to tear Lu Ming to pieces. Outside it was chaotic. As for Lu Ming and the others, they were peacefully cultivating by the lava lake. Now, Lu Ming had just gained control of the taboo energy. According to Bone Devil, he needed to familiarize himself with it. Only then would he be able to lessen the suppression of his other divine powers. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to use his other divine powers. Just like that, several days passed. Lu Ming's control of the taboo energy did improve, but it wasn't by much. The main reason was that he hadn't had much time. Lu Ming! Suddenly, a loud roar rang out. This loud roar came from the sky. It passed through the 10,000 Dragons seal and the passageway, reaching the magma lake and exploding in the ears of Lu Ming, Ao Yen, and the rest. It was like thunder, like heavenly might. It made people unable to resist. It was as if it could make people submit. Who is it? Ao Guan's expression was ugly. He looked up at the passage with a grave expression. It was just a voice, but it made people unable to even think of resisting. A lord of heaven from the heavenly palace. Lu Ming slowly spoke. His expression was unprecedentedly grave. At this moment, the dreamland was in an uproar. Because a lord of heaven from the heavenly palace had personally come to the dragon race's mother planet. The one who had spoken was the heavenly palace's lord of heaven. Lu Ming saw the various races' discussions through the dreamland jade. A lord of heaven from the heavenly palace. Ao Yen, Ao Guan, and the others' expressions changed. There was disbelief in their eyes. The lord of heaven was a giant in the heavenly palace, a top expert in the primitive universe. He was a terrifying existence. Who would have thought that Lu Ming would be able to attract someone like the Lord of Heaven from the heavenly palace to personally descend upon him just by fusing with that strand of power? What exactly was that strand of power? While Ao Yen, Ao Guan, and the others were shocked, they couldn't help but speculate in their hearts. The Lord of Heaven? Lu Ming whispered, his expression extremely solemn. The inheritance of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven that Chiu Autumn Moon had obtained was from one of the heavenly palace, the Lord of Heaven. He didn't expect that he would have to deal with the real Lord of Heaven now. Now, what should we do? Ao Guan said. Let's go out and take a look. I wonder if the 10,000 dragon seals can stop the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming said. In fact, whether the 10,000 dragon seals could stop the Lord of Heaven or not, they still had to go out and take a look. If they couldn't stop him, it would be useless for them to hide here. Ao Yen and the others nodded. Then, all of them flew up and followed the passageway that they had come down from. After a while, they flew out of the passage and returned to the bottom of the sea. There was no one around. It was obvious that the prodigies of the various races had all retreated. They flew up and soon arrived above the sea. Above. As soon as they returned to the sea, they were attracted by the scene in the sky. An incomparably huge figure stood in the starry sky. His body was so huge that it seemed to be the same size as the golden winged race or the Wu people from before. However, this person's body emitted a bright divine light that enveloped his body. They couldn't see his appearance clearly, but they felt that he was incomparably sacred. His two eyes were like two beams of light that seemed to break through all the fog and landed on Lu Ming and the others. After all, the dragon race's mother planet was protected by the 10,000 dragon seals. From the outside, it was a fog. If one wanted to see through the fog, they would need to be very strong. The Lord of Heaven. Needless to say, Lu Ming and the others also knew that this person was the Lord of Heaven from the heavenly palace. Lu Ming. The Lord of Heaven opened his mouth again. His voice boomed like the might of heaven. Lord of Heaven, why are you looking for me? Lu Ming asked. His voice wasn't loud, but he knew that the Lord of Heaven could definitely hear him. You fused with that power. The Lord of Heaven spoke, but he didn't say that the power was forbidden. Yes. Lu Ming nodded. Very good. Now I'll give you a chance. Join the Heavenly Palace and I'll give you the position of Heavenly Emperor. The Lord of Heaven spoke. The Lord of Heaven's voice spread in all directions. He didn't hide it. Regardless of whether it was the young geniuses or the older generation, when they heard it, they were all envious. That was the position of the Son of Heaven. Once one ascended to it, they would be like a carp leaping through the dragon gate. From then on, they would be high and mighty, and could do whatever they wanted in the Your Wilds universe. Especially the races that had a grudge against Lu Ming, such as the Winged Men and the Wu people. They were extremely unwilling. Once Lu Ming became the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Palace, they wouldn't be able to take revenge on Lu Ming. When they saw Lu Ming in the future, they would have to treat him with respect and curry favor with Lu Ming. When they thought of this, they were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. Especially the Golden Winged Men. His son was killed by Lu Ming. He couldn't wait to chop Lu Ming into pieces. At this moment he was the most furious. But since the Lord of Heaven spoke, he didn't dare to refute. Although the Lord of Heaven wasn't the strongest person in the Heavenly Palace, he represented the face of the Heavenly Palace. Countless people were watching. Although most of them couldn't hear Lu Ming's words, they couldn't see Lu Ming either. But there were a few other mighty beings around the dragon race's mother planet, such as the Golden Winged Men and the Wu people. They could see Lu Ming on the dragon race's mother planet and hear Lu Ming's words. Are you trying to bribe me? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Lu Ming, don't agree. The taboo force is a heaven-defying force. It's a natural enemy of the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace will never let go of someone who has fused with the taboo force. Once you go to the Heavenly Palace, they will take you down and destroy your spiritual will. They will control you and turn you into a puppet of the Heavenly Palace. The Bone Demon's voice rang in Lu Ming's mind. But the Bone Demon was very careful now. He restrained his soul power as if he was afraid of being discovered by the Lord of Heaven. Destroy one's spiritual will and become a puppet of the Heavenly Palace. Has the Heavenly Palace done something like this before? Lu Ming was extremely shocked. As far as I know, the Bone Demon answered affirmatively. Lu Ming was shocked. How deep was the Heavenly Palace's water? If such a taboo force was controlled by the Heavenly Palace and turned into a puppet, wouldn't they have an invincible fighter when he grew up? So, the Lord of Heaven wants to trick you into leaving the dragon race's mother planet. The Bone Demon said. Lu Ming nodded silently. He believed the Bone Demon. Lord of Heaven, please give me some time to think about it. How about that? Lu Ming said loudly. He didn't refuse immediately. Instead, he said that he would think about it for a while. He wanted to stall for time. The Golden Winged Men and the Wu people were paying attention to Lu Ming's situation. When they saw that Lu Ming didn't agree, they were a little stunned. This kid is really stupid. He didn't agree to such a good offer. Good. I hope the Lord of Heaven will be angry. The mighty figures of the Winged Men tribe and the Sorcerer tribe were elated and excited. They quickly sent Lu Ming's reply to the dreamy Divine Jade.